Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. It's another wonderful Wednesday edition of Talk Today. We've got some great things in store for you. A chance to talk to our friends from the Cancer Society. We talk about World Cancer Day. And a few minutes thereafter, our good friends over the National Gallery about the collection. And then at 1:30, World Veterans Day. So it's going to be a good, informative show as we invite you to be a part of it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you for joining us. And thanks to Miss Amanda Nicholson, Mr. Jennifer Weber, and Ms. Tracy Stone, both from the Cancer Society. And as the Cancer Czar, Miss Amanda, we understand the importance and the sensitivity of being able to talk about the subject, but we're glad that people are increasingly more comfortable to share so that others don't have to labor in the dark, but also to recognize the importance of being very proactive as we talk to our primary care physician, not just wait to the oncologist has to see us. So you guys collectively have made a profound impact. So thank you publicly. But Ms. Jane, when we think of the Cancer Society, whether it's the annual Stride Walk or whether it's the programs they facilitate through and in collaboration with the service clubs and the healthcare sector, we see a continued community commitment to cancer, as it were. So World Cancer Day, as you set the stage for Ms. Amanda and Ms. Tracy to share with us more specifically, why don't we defer to you, the voice of radio?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having us as the Cancer Society on with you today. It's been a while, and so I'm happy to be back in the studio here, and we're happy to say hello to everybody who listens. We have so many patients who come into our office or people who stop by and say, "Oh, I hear you on Radio Cayman," so I'm sure everybody who's listening is going to be happy to hear that the Cancer Society is back. We are so fortunate in this community because the Cayman Islands Cancer Society does receive so much support, emotional support, prayer support, financial support from everybody in the community. We just finished Stride, and it was a modified Stride. We couldn't do what we normally do and all gather, but it turned out great because everybody did sort of a custom Stride. It worked out really well. We were all over social media. People did their own thing. Those iconic Stride shirts went out. This year, I don't know if you saw the logo, we added a mask to the little purple guy. A little tongue-in-cheek there, but people really liked that, so it was the most collectible one yet because the logo was changed. But the event turned out great, but that was January, and now it's February, and we are never looking back. We're just going forward. February is a special time for us. The entire world is observing World Cancer Awareness, and the world is looking at it for February 4th, but in Cayman, we're going to be doing it all month long.
So good, we just want to be a partner. We take it to Stride.
Oh, nice. But seriously, folks.
Tonight, performing live.
Don't forget to tip your waiters.
The 2 drink minimum. But this is why I like to assemble, because we're now at a space in our communities where we can talk about it and to even see some of the patients who are our friends and family have a sense of humor, because the love that you show them, the support that they receive. I think increasingly the hope that they offer, I mean, through the registry in itself, people are starting to recognize that there is an importance in the numbers, getting the accurate data. So, Ms. Amanda, from that perspective, maybe we'll appreciate that more and more.
I think so, yeah. We're noticing an increase in registration as the years go by. And I'm happy to say that we finally have more men joining the registry, because that's been a problem for years. And just to clarify, the Cancer Registry isn't actually with the Cancer Society. It's with the Health Services Authority. But we work very closely with the Cancer Society, and grateful to have them here. One thing that cancer survivors in Cayman can do to recognize World Cancer Day is to participate in the Cayman Islands Cancer Registry. It's voluntary, it's confidential, registering is very fast, and the whole purpose is to get a better understanding of what cancer trends look like here, so that our medical professionals and researchers can do more to prevent and manage the disease.
Yeah, we know we might think something, we have a perception. It may be, well-founded in a sense, but with accurate data, we can actually point and say, well, this is what it is, even when we drill down. So with that, Ms. Tracy, from the idea of the world, as a whole, looking at cancer prevention, cancer awareness and education, but in the Cayman context, as Ms. Jen shared, we're not just going to relate it to one day. We'll have it throughout the month to give people a chance to sort of take it in, to be able to reflect on their own. But as you wish, Mom, share with us.
Yes, absolutely. In Cayman, we will recognize World Cancer Month and to help spread awareness, and we will have some fundraising opportunities throughout the month. But it really is about spreading awareness and education. But some of our events that'll be happening on Friday, we have a few new events this year. It's Lavender for Love, which is a carnation sale, and some pop-up shops around the island. We have Lavender on the Rocks, which is the entire month of February. Had great restaurants that have participated with us that are offering a cocktail, lavender inspired, for the month of February, with proceeds going to the Cancer Society. And also, we're asking people to light up lavender, so change a light bulb to purple, even one light bulb, just to share, participate in the cause. It's a simple thing that you can do. And we'll have some other events that you can just follow us on social media and see what else is up.
Yeah, I think this is the notion that, it connects all of us in a sense. It has affected us, almost every single person, sadly, around the globe, but certainly within this country, has been impacted by it. And it doesn't have to be daunting. It doesn't have to be that thing that is debilitating. We can come together and find a way, even through a healthy approach to our lifestyle. Just go back to Ms. Amanda. Within the HSA, as the Kansas are, and we have this, well, we can have a drug czar. I mean, why not?
Love that title.
Yeah, I think we should make it official. At least here it will be. But I think as a wider community, sometimes we don't appreciate the significance of being able to have that. Researchers do it, whether it's a student doing a dissertation and a thesis, but the policymakers, but the wider community needs to understand that this can be very, very instructive, informative for them if we have the data in a particular area show something.
Yes, everything is data-driven these days. I mean, if you don't have a basic understanding of how a thing works, how can you manage it? And with cancer surveillance in this country or any other country, it can be used for all sorts of things. It can be used to figure out how much medication you would need if you wanted to build a new oncology department, or how many doctors you would need. It helps you see if there are cancer clusters within the community, certain areas that see a higher incidence of cancer. It lets us know what kinds of cancer are most common. And when you understand things like that, then you know what you need to do to develop a prevention program. So, yeah, it's incredibly beneficial to any community.
And Ms. Tracy, I mean, we look at funding from the perspective. You talk about the fundraisers, and everything requires some element of give, whether it's the time, whether it's the money, or the person with a particular skill set. The physician who's coming to give a presentation, the benefactor who's going to make a donation, the volunteer is going to provide the time. But as a wider community, as we look at World Cancer Month in the Cayman context, what more would you want of us? Not just to give of your time, talent, and treasure, but what else?
Yes, it's not just time and money. It's also one of the things that we are promoting this month is we made a calendar, and it's a healthy calendar, and it is tips that you can do for yourself and for others. So it's eating healthy, checking in on someone, a caregiver, checking in on a cancer patient, thanking a healthcare provider, just small tips of things that you could do throughout February and actually at the entire year. But for the people that do, if you want to volunteer, whether it's with any organization, I mean, that is very helpful. And we value our volunteers. We have a lot of them, and we couldn't survive without them. And it could be, for an hour. It could be, once a month, once a year. Any little bit helps. But there are healthy things that you can do that we're hoping to promote this month that people will continue to do throughout the year.
If it's okay with you, if it's not, asking too much initially, but just when we come back from the break, maybe we can talk about some of those healthy tips. Maybe we can talk about the calendar and the like, and maybe we can get people to see that it isn't all about the gloom and the seriousness that we experience when we go to the physician. We get the diagnosis. This is the prognosis. This is now what our life is like. I think our physicians who have been our guests in the past have said some of the things are lifestyle choices. They're preventable. They certainly can be mitigated. And maybe these healthy tips can help us so that we see it not that very daunting and depressing sort of thing that it can't be. But instead, there's hope and there's help. And together, we can have some level of happiness.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to pause and take a break. And, with your consent and participation, we'll make it through to Wednesday. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrid save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in your hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Doctors Hospital would like to advise the community that they are now authorized to provide confirmatory PCR testing for positive lateral flow tests at no charge for patients, including residents and visitors. You can view the full schedule of testing and locations or book your appointment at doctorshospitalcayman.com or call 325-9000 extension 2.
Government's new recruitment portal offers job seekers a paperless online process that makes it easy to apply for more than one job anywhere, anytime. With this step forward in our online recruitment presence, you can keep track of outstanding applications and appointments and receive notifications about your applications. Visit the careers.gov.ky portal and use the new one-stop shop for civil service recruitments to further your career.
You know what I love to do with my family? Go fishing. I can put the bait on and cast and reel the line all by myself. My mommy and daddy say when they were little, there were plenty more fish to catch, but now there are lots more people fishing, so it's harder to find them. That's why we have marine parks now. They set some areas aside so the fish there can have babies and grow bigger. Then they swim out to other areas where I can catch them. Having the marine parks means there will still be fish there when I'm grown up and fishing with a family of my own.
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us. It is truly an opportune time to be able to talk about World Cancer Month in the Cayman context. And from the Cancer Society, Ms. Jen Weber, together with her colleague, Ms. Tracy Stone, and then the Cancer Czar over at the HSZ, Ms. Amanda Nicholson. You know what? I'm going to write to the Minister for Health and say, let's formally appoint her as Czar. Either that or I'll get fired.
Well, I think people will want to avoid her at parties if she's the cancer czar. That doesn't sound very nice.
No, that's all right. We had under one of the U.S. presidents, we had a drug czar.
That's true. That's true. She's definitely the person in charge and the person who knows the most. So, okay, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll work. It'll work fine. Okay. And I'll be your assistant.
Get the business cards printed up.
Oh, then we can't do it then, because the paper and trees. But thank you for allowing me to at least have a bit of humor in there. And I think this is why Ms. Tracy was asking. People can now take this month and take a new perspective. It is a new year. Last month was a long year. I agree, and we want this month to even be a shorter year. But with that, there are things we can do as you look at the calendar for ourselves and for each other.
Right. Yeah. So some of the things we have on the calendar for February: donate blood. Mm-hmm. Everyone can use, the hospitals and stuff. That's important. Even things like think positively, hug a loved one. It's been a rough couple of years, as we all know. It's important just to take the time, and when you're busy, just think, loved one. It could be a family member or a friend, somebody you haven't seen.
So hug a loved one or love a hugged one.
Exactly.
Sorry, Mr.
And of course, make someone laugh, because people think that cancer. It is. It's sad. It can be devastating. But if you stop by the Cancer Society, we are hopeful, and we do laugh, and we try to bring joy and positivity. Obviously, there's times with a lot of tears, but we really try to put a spin on it and bring back the hope and laughter, because, laughter helps. Laughter can be good medicine.
And there's nothing like, sometimes it's our friends, our family. They're very close to us, and we know that they know what they're experiencing because they're experiencing it. And to see them make an attempt to make you laugh, you're thinking, but you should be the one that we're trying to cheer up. And that helps them because they know it helps us. So let's do that. Let's add laughter to our life.
Yep, absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
it. And then we can look at it. I mean, it is the new year, and many of us are still concerned about our health and well-being. And so maybe we will use this as the springboard for a healthy lifestyle.
Right. And we even have that on this. Things like, get a checkup with your doctor, encourage a friend or family member to do that, to have your annual, wellness checks and things like that. And encouraging, like I said, other people that you love to do that too.
Take a beach walk. Go see go see the sunset. But Ms. Amanda, I mean, even from that, perhaps even the calendar could make up a point to get on the registry.
Yeah, anytime's a good time, but this month it's especially a good time because we are trying to pay a little bit more attention to this disease right now. So we can register in the office or we can do it online. And right now we're kind of encouraging anyone who does have access to a computer and email. And I know not everyone does, but if you do, we can do the whole thing online just to help do our part to not spread COVID around anymore. But it's quick, it's easy, it gives us the information we need. And, it helps out everybody. It helps anyone interested in cancer management do a better job of planning for this and for managing the disease.
But Ms. Jenna, when we look at it and, the stride, as you said, modified, it was almost like the exercises that we need to modify because we can't. But here was something that people could do and make it customized, personal to them. It's sort of like the individual approaches to the whole caregiving. For those volunteers who want to be involved with the Cancer Society, for those who may not understand the actual level of services, share with us.
Sure. Interesting that you should bring that up because Tracy actually is not only doing all the World Cancer Awareness Day, you know, we're a charity, so we're doing 10 jobs, but she's also the volunteer coordinator. And so if you are someone who is interested in helping the Cancer Society in some way, we would be very happy to hear from you. You can send us an email, or you can go on our website, or you can just stop into the office. We do have a volunteer registration form, and it's a simple form that says, you know, what kind of skills do you have? What would you like to do? And you can tick the boxes, but I always say that it's nice to have somebody write in if they have special talents. You know, if you're a juggler or you happen to be somebody who can ride a unicycle or whatever it is, whatever skill you have, please also note that because you never know what we're going to need. Honestly, it's happened so many times through the years where somebody said, oh, I don't have any talents. I'm like, oh, everybody has talents. And then we find out, oh, they can make a really great heavy cake. Or, oh, they are somebody who was a blackjack dealer in Las Vegas at one point. And I'll be darned if some need doesn't present itself where we go, oh, you know what? We really need a heavy cake. Who was that lady who was in here? And then that volunteer has a chance to shine. But there's all kinds of things, whether you have a special talent or you're just somebody who would like to come and do something in the office. Right now, Tracy has a volunteer at the office who is tying little ribbons and note cards onto 440
carnations.
40 lavender carnations.
Yeah, well, Cayman lavender carnations.
Oh, that's a Cayman lavender. So they're kind of magenta-y, lavender-y, purple-y, pinky. We're not sure. But anyway, they're lavender carnations. We're calling them Cayman lavender. And, you know, that's something that it takes a lot of time to do. And so it's a huge help to us. We can still be on the phone. We can still be there to help the patients who need us and be doing other things while a volunteer is tying those on to the carnations. You know, we had lots of volunteers who came in for Stride and helped sort shirts. When you come to our office at Stride time, it kind of looks like the Gap in the United States. You know, there's shelves that have really neatly stacked T-shirts in every size. And it's volunteers who make that possible because they take all the boxes that are in the back office and then bring them out and keep that stock replenished so that when people come in, we can just grab them really quickly and get the people out the door, which worked really well because of COVID and also just help relieve congestion so that people don't feel like, oh, I don't want to register because I go in there. It takes forever. It's too crowded. We want people to get in and get out. Lots of volunteers came and helped us in so many ways. When we do Stride, the normal Stride, the big Stride at the beach, honestly, it's 100 volunteers who make that possible because without all the volunteers, it just wouldn't happen. And that's true not only for Stride time, but throughout the year. And this month for February, because we have so many things going on, you know, the carnation sales and other activities, you're going to see lots of volunteers out in the community. And know that everything that you're doing by participating and paying $2 and getting the carnation or buying a lavender pin or deciding to help in some way, you're helping, you're contributing, and that person who's sitting there is also helping by volunteering their time and making a difference. So it's all of these things that pull together to make it possible for us to have the resources that we need to help the patients who need us the most.
I think this is where I see the strength in our community, the love that is so evident, and the idea that this discussion evokes in many of us, even around the table, you know, some memories that are not always as fun, but then we can quickly, through laughter, go back to that place where, you know what, it can be, and you must be commended for that. For that, though, as we look, Ms. Tracy, with the idea that through volunteers and through our active, very deliberate attempt at showing our commitment, you know, changing the light bulb to purple, you know, just putting on something. I mean, today I was going to wear purple, but Susan said no.
It's not your color.
It is on the calendar. Wear lavender.
You can do that any day this month when maybe if Susan isn't going to be in, she has a doctor's appointment in the middle, you can sneak in wearing a lavender shirt and get away with that.
Yeah, I'll try that. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, but see, there is there's the laughter that we talk about. But there's things that we can do, you know, even if it's a quiet thing within ourselves.
Absolutely, yes. It's just the little things that you can do can make a difference.
And it shows support for many in this sense. Well, as we round out the discussion, I'll come back to you in a second, but perhaps, Ms. Amanda, from that, I keep asking and inviting for people to be a part of the registry from the statistical perspective, from what could help to inform policy. For some of us, it isn't that the time, it's the emotion that they have to recollect this thing either. How do we help us to do that? Because it could be a past, someone who's passed a while back. We still want the information, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a difficult thing to do for a lot of people. But I think we need to keep in mind that by doing this, you're also helping others. So, we're all capable of doing things that make us a little uncomfortable and that are painful. But if it's benefiting other people, I think that's worth it. And we see oftentimes it's people who have gone through the recovery process and have come out on the other side who seem to be a little more likely to come and register. I think for some folks who are newly diagnosed and they're just right in the middle of it, you're not really thinking about research, or you're thinking about survival. So we do see a lot of people come in, several months or even years after they've gone through the process. But anybody registering is helping the community.
Right. And I asked that because we had, as you were chatting, a quickly exchange with one of our listeners and was asking about those in remission. And well, I was going to ask you, but you almost referenced it. Someone has diagnosed, they've gone through the requisite protocols, and now they're in remission. You still want that person to?
Yes. Anybody who has ever been diagnosed with cancer can register, whether they're still in treatment, whether they're over it. If they were diagnosed yesterday or 20 years ago, anybody can register who's been diagnosed with cancer.
And if they've, no longer with us, then we still, if the family member would be inclined, let us have the information as well.
Yeah, a first-degree relative, yes.
Okay. And then they can check you at HSC, or they can, what would be some of the better ways maybe to?
They can, I'll give out the phone number. It's 244-2560. But all of my contact information is on the Health Services Authority's website and the Cancer Society's website. So pop online, my phone number, my email, and I'm happy to speak with people anytime.
Okay.
And can I just say that a lot of times people can't remember things, and they go, well, I'll just call it Cancer Society. And so, sometimes we get calls, oh, I heard hospice was doing this thing, or, oh, I heard this other, Meals on Wheels did something, but, do you know what it is? And so it's fine if people need information about the registry. By all means, if they can only remember something about cancer and they call the Cancer Society or stop into the Cancer Society, that's perfectly fine. We can always get the information. We can call Amanda. We can have Amanda come over and meet them. We can direct them to where they need to go. It's fine if you use us like directory assistants. We are all things cancer.
Yes, I can't tell you how much I appreciate Cancer Society letting me come over, use the room to register people. It's easier to find you guys than it is to find my office in the hospital.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think people feel comfortable coming to the Cancer Society because, again, they feel like, oh, it's cancer, whatever it is, you just go there. And that's great because then we can direct people. And I just wanted to mention something else that just came to mind while we were talking about all of this. Everybody who has ever had cancer definitely should go and register with Amanda because that data is so important for us and for us as a country. I mean, and it's anonymous. It only takes like 2 minutes. The most common thing that we hear is people are like, oh, that's it. It's over already. It takes a couple of minutes, and it's information that you have in your head. Sometimes I think people feel uncomfortable. They're like, oh, I'm not sure how to spell that kind of medication that I was on. That's okay. That's not important. Amanda is so great at taking these registrations, and it's so quick and easy that when people do it, I think they then feel like, oh, I should have done this a long time ago. This was easier. And then they're more comfortable doing it with more people, for more people. It's always anonymous. They don't have to worry, and it really is going to help the community. And that is separate from, sometimes people go over to the hospital at HSA and they see the photos on the wall. Totally separate. Nothing to do, one has nothing to do with the other. But the photos on the wall over at HSA, I want you to know, we have so many cancer survivors, we don't have enough spaces for the people now. So when we made that wall in 2012 or 14, we never imagined that we would fill that wall. We filled that wall, and we've had to add new spaces. We have so many survivors now. Things are really changing. People, early detection is making a difference. People are catching their cancer earlier. It's been saving lives. These the cancer screening tests make a difference. People seeing their doctor, people talking about cancer, people having open conversations with their doctors and their loved ones is making a big difference. And it's evidenced by all of these happy, smiling faces that are on the wall. Those are all people who are cancer survivors. So we want everyone to pay attention to that and see the numbers are growing. You don't have to be afraid. We need to focus on this and make sure that we can do everything we can to help each other and save lives.
There's that hope. And finally, Ms. Tracy, again, as the month unfolds, how we can draw alongside what we can do, and maybe a quick reminder for Colin.
Yes. So you can stop in the office if you wanted to, get a calendar. You can contact me at the office, or you can email me. It's going to be in the news when Friday.
Yes.
At tracy@cis.ky to see how you can participate. You could, there's little fundraisers you could do, or again, you can light up lavender. You can volunteer for us. There's numerous things, but if you just want to reach out, then I can forward you the information. And if you don't have the time this year and you can only do a few things, don't worry, we'll be at it next year because it's February 4th every year, and every year we celebrate the entire month.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? Something that I think is really interesting is these activities that Tracy's talking about have literally put Cayman on the map. So all over the world, World Cancer Awareness Day is being observed February 4th. So if you want to check it out, go online right now and type in World Cancer Day, February 4th. Make sure you get the right year, 2022. And it'll pop up a map of the world. And if you scroll around and you look for Cayman and you click on it, you're going to see everything that Tracy's been talking about. It's the calendar, it's the carnation sales, it's lavender pins, it's all the things that we're doing. So all over the world, people can see that what's happening in Cayman, and others will imitate what we're doing. We're in the middle of the world here, people, and people are watching us and imitating what we're doing here to make a difference in our community.
A little small dot on that world calendar, but it comes up.
There you go.
Cayman Islands.
And that's because of the volunteers, the great corporate support, the organizations, HSA. And I think it makes a difference. So thank you all very much for that. And we're certainly looking forward to continue partnership. And invite you to have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right, to our listeners, going to pause and take a break. I'd love Miss Susan to put the tea on. And when we come back, we'll dish it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven-roasted chicken, Black Forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Now open on the sister island, Brack Medical Supplies. Located at 403 Gerard Smith Avenue, next to the Alexander Hotel. Open Tuesday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Telephone number 948-2228. Brack Medical Supplies.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And it's a good Wednesday to engage and inform the community about all that is happening in this beautiful little blessed place. Well, in the studio, we have the excellent company from our friends over at the National Gallery, Ms. Maya Batu and her colleague, William Helfrich. I share with you that even now, and perhaps more so than ever, especially now, it's important to get out to these spaces to see things that are happening on a national level, so that at the end of the day, we can appreciate that the world may be a little bit different, but it can be better. It doesn't have to be worse. So, with deference to Will, perhaps why don't we start with you?
Sure.
It's a good time, a good place to have a gallery, to have a national collection, to see the different exhibits and even the workshops that you put on. There's so much that happens, especially now. So take it away.
Yes. So a lot of people might not know what we mean when we say a national collection.
Right.
So the national collection is really, yes, we hold it in keeping at the National Gallery, but it doesn't belong to us. It really belongs to the people of the Cayman Islands. And so that's there sort of forevermore. And the collection is made up of a number of pieces, which I'll let Will talk about. Yeah. But it's actually grown exponentially in the past couple of years. So it's grown by about 240%, Will.
That's right.
Yeah. So we've got amazing work in that collection from Caymanian artists of many different styles and mediums, and the exhibition that we have on right now really celebrates that. So it's a great show to come to for people who like lots of different styles of art, because you're not seeing just one thematic show and you're not seeing just one style. You're seeing the real range of what we have available in the collection for view. So I'll let Will talk about it more specifically because he's really the collections expert.
Hey, listen, man, you wear many hats, and now to the bone collector, but the collections expert. I mean, there you go, man. But thank you. Amazing. He's doing good today.
Well, we learn every day. We learn something new, and it's a privilege, I think, for those of us that work in the civil service, those of us that work in our cultural institutions. We're public servants. So the title of this exhibition, and that was a good segue that Maya alluded to there, but, talking about this collection as being the People's Collection. Well, that's the title of this exhibition. So the exhibition is called The People's Collection, a 25-year cultural legacy, because we are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. So it's kind of a moment. We wanted to take the opportunity, and we've got, this year is going to be a momentous year for various reasons. We have Jubilee, and we have other sort of moments that we're taking to celebrate. And for us as an organization, we wanted to celebrate 25th anniversary of the founding of the National Gallery in 1997. And also the 10th anniversary of our new building. Well, we still think of it as a new building. Our new building opening in 2012. So lots of different sort of anniversaries that coincided. And so with that in mind, we wanted to take the opportunity to share the collection in a new way, because upstairs, for those who've been to the National Gallery, we have a permanent display of works from the National Collection. And just to give you a comparison, so a lot of museums around the world, when you go to visit the museum, you're probably seeing about 5% of that institution's collection, because most of it sits in storage. And so for us, we very consciously wanted to bring these works out and share them with our community. So we have now with these 2 exhibits that we have on, because we still have our Saltwater in Their Veins, which is another collection display upstairs. And between these 2 exhibitions, we've now got about 40% of the collection on view for the public. So it's a really great opportunity, and even people who've visited the gallery many, many times, trust me, you're going to see works that you've never seen before. You're going to see works that you may have seen, but many, many years ago. So it's this idea of rotating the collection and bringing things on display, making sure that the people who, for whom this collection is really for, have access to these works in person. But we're also doing a lot with the digital space, and that's something that I think Maya's going to talk more about, digital access.
Well, and I appreciate your reference to that, because even in this day and age, sometimes just logistics, we can. I like what you did in 2020, where you took the photographs, you took us on a world tour from our armchair. But more and more, the artists are starting to see the digital domain as being, in their sort of comfort zone.
Yeah, this show is really a good way to explore how the National Gallery has really grown over the years. One of the great things that the curatorial department did with this show is that they actually they hung the work in a way that is chronological to how we acquired it. So instead of having a thematic hang per se, so for example, Terra Botanica, our last show, was really all about plant life in Cayman. This show is really about the ways in which we have acquired work for the National Collection and how the collection has grown over the years. So you can really see the evolution of the gallery and of the visual arts in Cayman as you walk through the space. And part of that evolution is really embracing this digital technology that is so much a part of our lives now, and especially since, lockdowns and all of the world that we live in now. So when we think about access, which is a huge part of what we do, this being the People's Collection, we really want to ensure that everyone has access to this collection. Digital is a big part of that. So we do everything from virtual tours and those are virtual 360 tours. So they're kind of like, I don't know if anyone listening has done those like interior design 360s where it's like you're walking around a room. Yeah. It's very much like that. And we work with Dragonfly to produce those 360 tours. We also have our collection in its entirety on the website as well, and we do a lot of education work through that website too. So there's actually a physical space in this exhibition in the corner room, which is our digital space. So you can actually go into that space. We have laptops and iPads that people can interact with, and they can explore those digital options of how they access the collection. And then there's lots more information there to read up on about other ways that we do community access for the collection. And that's through education programs like Art on the Road, where we actually take reproductions of collection artworks to schools in different districts who might not be able to access us physically more regularly. So there's a lot going on, and digital is a huge part of that. So that's why we really wanted to dedicate that space in this exhibition to sharing that.
Makes it more accessible. It certainly maybe give a greater sense of, the urgency, and as you shared, having the children, in their classrooms makes it convenient for them and the teacher, and you come to them. Maybe after the news break, you could ask maybe about some of the things in the collection, some of the artists, expound on it as much as you wish, and then remind people, like anything, it may be on for a long time, but it doesn't, stay on forever. So if you want to see it, we can talk about that, right? All right, and if you have a question, 949-8037, 1-800-534-TALK. Well, we're going to get you in the studio if you want to call. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Public Health has released COVID-19 figures for the 28th, 29th, and 30th of January. There are 222 positives, 216 on the 29th, and an estimated 132 from Monday, January 30th. The Sister Islands also noted 3 new cases since the last report, for a total of 68 active cases. In international news, U.S. President Joe Biden is committing to reduce the cancer death rate by 50%, a new goal for the Moonshot Initiative against the disease that was announced in 2016 when he was vice president. Biden has set a 25-year timeline for achieving that goal, part of his broader effort to end cancer as we know it, according to senior administration officials who previewed Wednesday's announcement on the condition of anonymity. The issue is deeply personal for Biden. He lost his elder son to brain cancer in 2015. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden is sending about 2,000 U.S.-based troops to Poland and Germany and shifting roughly 1,000 soldiers from Germany to Romania as demonstrations of American commitments to NATO allies amid fears of a possible Russian military invasion of Ukraine, the Pentagon said Wednesday. In announcing the moves, Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said they will happen in coming days and operate under U.S. command. And U.S. airlines have canceled nearly 3,000 flights combined for Wednesday and Thursday as a powerful winter storm packing ice, rain, sleet, and snow is stretching from the Midwest to the South. For Wednesday, Chicago O'Hare, United and American Airlines hub, is the most affected airport with 164 cancellations. That according to flight tracking site FlightAware. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. I'm glad that we can, especially now, realize how accessible, the National Gallery is, how important it is to be supportive, whether as a donor and benefactor or whether as a volunteer. But as an artist, you have a space. We recognize that people will share that in many countries, just because of the size and the logistics, it's not always easy to get access. And even if it is harder, so for an artist. So we'll have French together with Maya Matu. I appreciate you sharing. So the People's Collection.
Yes.
And the idea that, today is what? 2022? Yes, still 2022. Okay, it's February. It's the 2nd.
Yeah.
All right, so it's on, and we got a chance to see 2 for 1, right? With the salt water. Yeah.
Yes, with saltwater. Yes, exactly. Yes. So we have 2 shows that are largely made up of the National Collection.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the People's Collection, which is on right now through May. And then Saltwater in Their Veins, which is more of a thematic hang, but also the National Collection.
Mm-hmm. And I think, for those who know, it's right off there still the Tibbetts, access is very easy in and out and very safe. I like how the driveway is. But if I might, as we look at it, people might think, well, this is February and May is, May is so far away, but it'll come and go.
Yeah, these things come and go. Mm-hmm. And we just opened this exhibition on the 27th of January, which, as I was saying, was the 10th anniversary to the day of the opening of our facility on the Esterly Tibbetts Highway, which was a lot smaller in 2012, if you remember. But with that in mind, the exhibition's up till the 28th of May. And so what we're trying to do to promote the show and also kind of encourage, energy around... we don't charge an admission charge. So oftentimes, I think that should be more of an incentive for people to come out and see this free cultural resource.
Mm-hmm.
And we're open from Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So, we've had this cold weather these past few days, a bit of rain. There's nowhere I'd rather be on, those days like that than in one of our cultural centers here, be it the museum or us at the National Gallery. And I think now talking about, as you said, having a platform for our artists. Well, this exhibition, as I said, we've got over 60 artworks. We have many, many, many of our artists represented. And so we start, as Maya said at the beginning, with this kind of chronological approach. Now, what that means is we're not starting with the oldest work first, and that's, quite a traditional way of displaying a collection. If you've been to museums around the world, you have this sort of, that's what art historians do, right?
Mm-hmm.
They put things in order. You start with the old stuff and you move through to the contemporary. And we've done something different with this, which I think is really interesting, because you'll see as you move through the spaces, we've got work by some of our pioneers, such as Miss Lassie, works by Bendel Hydes, but mixed in alongside those are more recent works. And when you put these artworks alongside each other, what happens is you start to see connections that maybe you'd never seen before. So many of our artists, the Native Sons artists, Gordon Solomon, Miguel Powery, those are artists that we often see grouped together, right? Because they share an affinity, they often share stylistic connections. You know, you're looking at works that are very brightly colored or abstract, modern pieces. But I think that's, for me, what makes this show interesting is mixing things up, you know, seeing artists from different periods working in a different style. Maybe, as Maya said, you're more drawn to that kind of traditional images of Caymanian heritage, or perhaps you're kind of interested in these more contemporary style work. So this is really, as Maya said, a great overview. And for we're thinking of people who maybe have never come to the gallery as well. So you'll see a lot of the old favorites that people will recognize. But we really wanted to approach this with the idea, you know, we're going to have more and more tourists coming back, and maybe locals and residents who haven't been for a long time. So it's really meant as a kind of 101 to show people this introduction to what the collection is, what it means to have a national collection and a public collection, and the kind of explaining what the cultural landscape in Cayman has been and what it's becoming today, you know, because we have such a vibrant art scene nowadays in Cayman. It's grown a lot.
Yeah. If I can just add to what Will was saying, speaking of people who haven't necessarily visited the gallery before, I think a lot of the time with museums and gallery spaces, there can be a bit of a barrier for people who don't necessarily feel that they want to take this intellectual approach to artwork. They don't necessarily feel that they want to, you know, read long labels or engage with artwork in that kind of very academic way. And one of the things that we have done to kind of break down that barrier a bit for this show is to start introducing audio guides. So for all of the artworks on the labels and on the sectionals, you'll see these QR codes. And those are available for to scan for audio guides in both English and Spanish. So I think this is a really exciting thing for this show, to have new languages or different languages included. And we're also hoping to do some tours in sign language as well. So that's one of the things we're exploring at the moment. And as part of our educational program for this show, we're doing our usual lunchtime tours. Those are drop-ins, so no need to book ahead of time. Those are free tours with the curatorial team. And those are every first and third Wednesday in English and every first Tuesday in Spanish. So you can come and meet one of the curators of the show in English or in Spanish to tour the space, but you can also use those audio guides if you're just walking through on your own as well. And those are available on the website too. Right now, we don't have every single label up and available yet, but by the end of the week, they will be there. So if you come in on Saturday or you come in on Monday, you'll be able to access all of those labels via the audio guides.
And this shows not just the dedication, but the deliberate attempt and the amount of work that you put into this as a strong deference to your audience, not just to the artwork and the artists themselves, but in the collection, but to the audience, so that they can come in and come away. As you shared, Will, you know, there are pieces there that we may have seen, you know, way back when, but that deliberate juxtaposition of the emerging artists, you know, with the pioneer, I think Bendel Hydes easily resonates with everyone. Some of his larger pieces hanging, some are, you know, more popular corporate environments. There are few in the private collection, but he's an icon. So is, you know, the emerging ones one day will be looked to the same. So to hang in the same space, this would be the opportune time to look back on it.
And different generations. We have what I love about this show as well is the representation of traditional craft objects, you know, and the museum has a very strong collection. But we also have, from the beginning, actually, from the outset of the gallery, we were very conscious of making sure that we represent the full spectrum of what we mean by the arts, you know, because the arts is not just painting and sculpture, you know, there's so much skill that goes into the weaving of a traditional thatch ground basket. You know, if you've seen these baskets by Miss Marlena Anglin or Miss Lizzie Powell, you start to appreciate these are individuals who maybe didn't go to art school, right, in the traditional sense of in modern day times, people going to art school, but the amount of skill that goes into these objects. And I think in this show, what's cool is when you come into that final space in the middle of the lower galleries. We have traditional thatch baskets. We also have very, very contemporary work made for our most recent biennial exhibition, which took place last year. And there's one piece in there by Davin Ebanks, who's a very accomplished Caymanian glass sculptor. So his specialty is very, very technical, working with molding glass and molten glass. And he's done this incredible piece, which is kind of an homage to that tradition of basket weaving, but it's in blown glass. So, and it sits right next to the traditional baskets. And also in that room, you were talking about the generational contrast. We have 3, I think, artists under the age of 25, mid-20s or younger. In fact, one of them was born in 2000. So very, very young emerging artists, and also some of the more established names that people would recognize.
Yeah. As I was, sort of following along with you, I think this is where we can see as parents and as teachers the benefit of not just the instruction, but the encouragement. Whereas at the time, out of necessity, many of these traditional artisans had to do other things in order to survive, and the ground basket was just a utility. But now we saw its importance in preservation. So Ms. Maya, with that in mind, as we come through this space, as a parent bringing their children, as just an adult who may have been here for a few decades, and now we're just looking for something to do with time, or for that new visitor, we're going to see something through a lens that may spark us, huh?
Yes. Yes, I think there's always something to be explored and experienced at the gallery. Whether you are someone who's interested in the utility of objects, which can be very aesthetically interesting in and of itself. Actually, I was in New York over right after Christmas time, and I went to a design museum. And I don't really think about that on a day-to-day basis, but you think about these utilitarian objects that are designed for very specific functions, and that in and of itself is so interesting. So like Will was talking about with the thatch baskets, which of course were, created for a very practical use, but the artisans have really transformed them into these incredible works of art. I mean, one of the pieces was actually created as a hat, but then sort of turned upside down into this basket with flowers in it. I believe that's a Carmen Connolly piece. So yes, I think no matter what you're interested in, whether it's the design or if, your kids just like to look at more tactile things, or like to look at, flat sort of things. So there's always something different for them to explore and to just get their imagination working a little bit more. Yeah. And we have tons of worksheets on site as well, so they can explore the gallery through using those too. And they're really fun and interactive. They include games and drawing prompts, and really get kids thinking about what museums are, what collections are. And I think there's a lot of great curricular tie-ins with that too, because the idea of collecting can be such a great way to get kids thinking about these curricular subjects like math, for example. You think about how many things you have in a collection, how you're grouping and categorizing things in a collection. So are you doing it by color or by theme or by year of acquisition? So there's really great sort of transferable skills that kids can be learning with these worksheets while they're in the gallery space, outside of just the aesthetic part of it.
That cross-curricular sort of pollination. And as you were sharing it, I was thinking to Michael Greaves, the utility, but yet the aesthetic appeal of many of his pieces. We can buy it for its collectible, but we can buy it because it's also a nice teapot to have, and this is where, as you referenced, like Miss Carmen, we are probably getting to the space where, like the Greaves of the world, there'll be the Carmen Conleys, and that become the icons that international acclaim. We don't have to look out always. We need to look within, and I think the collection. So when we come out from the break, maybe you guys can remind us of, the collection, the dates, anything else you want to share with us. It's an exciting time, and art isn't just, about the presence of being there and celebrating by yourself. It's about inviting others along for the journey. Right? We're going to pause and take a short break. When we come back, more talk today.
Government's new recruitment portal offers job seekers a paperless online process that makes it easy to apply for more than one job anywhere, anytime. With this step forward in our online recruitment presence, you can keep track of outstanding applications and appointments and receive notifications about your applications. Visit the careers.gov.ky portal and use the new one-stop shop for civil service recruitment to further your career.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
The coconut industry on the Sister Islands boomed between 1890 to 1915, with annual exports exceeding 1 million per year. In 1906, the industry peaked with the Sister Islands accounting for the entire export of the Cayman Islands. A coconut disease had previously killed off all of the trees in Grand Cayman. The industry was so successful that the government of the day went as far as to impose a special export duty. However, on Friday the 13th, 1915, a hurricane of unprecedented severity devastated the island of Cayman Brac, rendering most homeless and decimated 98% of the coconut trees on the Brac and 40% of those on Little Cayman. To add insult to injury, the coconut disease that struck Grand Cayman would soon arrive in the Sister Islands. During the 1920s and 1930s, efforts were made to revive the coconut industry, but the efforts were modest and the industry failed to reach its previous level of prosperity.
Information from this historical vignette was sourced from Founded Upon the Seas, A History of the Cayman Islands and Their People by Michael Creighton and the New History Committee.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks too for all of us who are very supportive of our community through our time, as we volunteer, but also the gifts that we give, keep on giving. I think as we look at the People's Collection, the National Collection, the National Gallery, it's important. So my too with a colleague, Will Helfrich, thank you both for not just extending the invitation, not just reminding us of the importance, but hopefully as a result of where we are in this part of our lives and on this journey, we'll take time and come out and be a part of it. So this always involves a concerted effort and collaboration. So whether it's the volunteers, whether it's the staff, whether it's the donor and the benefactor. Well, what do you think? I mean, it's a great time, right? Christmas is just gone, but it's around the corner again. Valentine's is coming up. Good space to interact and engage.
I think so. I think it's a new year. It's a fresh start. We've obviously got. We're still challenged, with COVID and other things that we face as a society. But I think it's helped us. This project has made all of us, and my colleagues and I, think about what our purpose is, what our mission is. And we have a very clear mission and those and clear values that we have on our website. But I think I'm talking more broadly about, what is the role of a public museum in Cayman? What's our job? And what's the service we're really supposed to be providing for the community? And, traditionally that is displaying objects, beautiful objects for people to come and see. But we've expanded so much in what we do over the past couple of years and before that even. And so now we're thinking really of the National Gallery as a space. It's a community space. It's a civic resource. All about the educational programs we have and classes for children and so on, seniors. But I think with this show in particular, it's really about, as Maya said, access. And so it's going to be up till the 28th of May, just opened. But thinking about access, not just in terms of people physically coming to the gallery, but being able to see but almost behind the scenes. So this, I think, will be interesting for people to get a clear idea of, what do we do day to day at the National Gallery? What are the projects that we're working on? And how can people come and be part of what we do? So one of the things we've been working on over the past few years, we talked about the digital access, so the website, the collection online, these amazing virtual tours, but book publications as well. We've published four publications now in the past 6 years, and those are great. They've been distributed free of charge to all of our local schools and public libraries. But now in this new year, we're going to really make a big effort to get these books out there, to the wider region, to universities and museums in cities in the UK and in the States. And I think for myself, part of the importance of that is we talked about supporting our local artists. Well, I think one of the ways you do that is increasing visibility for Caymanian artists overseas, because I would love to see a Caymanian artist represented in a museum exhibition in New York, or in London, where they've had several major exhibitions of Caribbean art and artists over the last couple of years. So, we have our these sort of titans of Caymanian art, people like Mendel Hydes, who has exhibited in London and in the States. He lived for many years in New York. But, we have such a wide pool of talent now. And I think part of what we're doing is to support the local art scene and through various ways, but also really helping our artists get their name out there and start showing their work, overseas. Because I think, for me, that's what we would call being a cultural ambassador. If we're talking about, even in the tourism space, showing the world what Cayman is. Well, we know about beautiful beaches and all of the other things that have attracted people to our shores for many years. But this idea of cultural capital, sharing with people the value of what we have here, which is this culture, right? This cultural identity, this creativity. So that's part of what this show is also about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I like about the idea that we can look at the last, 25 years. We can look at the emerging artists and the icons, and that juxtaposition that you were sharing. But it's also that notion that we can come into this space now and enjoy it. I was in Chicago many moons ago, and there was an exhibition. Their museum props for some, may not wear the Louvre or the like, but it was important to see. But it's just bigger space, and perhaps not as easy to navigate. Here we have access to the pieces, as well as importantly to the staff. So we better do it now.
Exactly. I think we're a really open space, and we'll put it really well in terms of the way that we perceive ourselves as an institution is really more of a community space. And you don't even have to come into the gallery. I mean, we hope that you do, and we hope you come and see the exhibitions. But our gardens are also there. You can come and have lunch and just sit in a beautiful space. And there are sculptures out in the garden for you to enjoy as well. Mm-hmm. You can come and have your lunch there, bring your kids and just have a play on the lawn. Enjoy one of our wellness programs, some of which happen outdoors. So, and these are all free, by the way. And of course, access to the museum itself is free, so you can come in and explore that space. And sometimes it's just a really nice, quiet thing to do to kind of bring you some peace, even if you just happen to stumble in one day. And it's also accessible in terms of our physical location, I think, because we're so close to Camana Bay, and there's an easy walking path, sort of underpass between us and CIS. So if you happen to be in Camana Bay having lunch and you think, I have a couple hours, to do something, head over to the gallery. And it's just a great way to get some inspiration and experience something that you might not always be drawn to, but might want to try something new. Or if you are a great art lover, it's a great way to just spend a couple hours really engaging with the incredible artists that we have in this community. And you mentioned the availability of staff too. We're always on site and happy to answer questions. For me in the education department, we also have a program called Creative Careers. And that is a great way. It's a great bridge, I think, between us and young people who are interested in potentially pursuing careers in the creative industries. And we're always open to answer questions. We go to all of the career fairs on island. Unfortunately, I know a couple of them have been canceled in person, but I'm going to be speaking at a virtual one soon. So there's lots of ways that we can engage with young people who are interested. So if you are listening and you're a young person, or just anyone really who's interested in creative careers, we're happy to kind of sit down and have conversations about that too, and just about local art in general.
And I think this is where, as I listen to you, I'm mindful that with the lives, and the dictates of our daily demands, as it were, sometimes we just need a reprieve. And we come over there, we can be inspired by the creativity, but give you a place to just reconnect, relax, and let your mind just, come to a space of quiet. The labyrinth, not the maze, would help us, right?
Yeah, the labyrinth is great. It's not quite a maze because there aren't multiple paths.
Yeah.
But it is a labyrinth that's based on this idea of like sacred geometry, and you can find that in sort of cathedrals and churches all over the world as well. And it's just it's a path that you walk slowly that is, follows a sort of a labyrinthine loop. But it's just a nice way to kind of have a peaceful, mindful walk through the gardens, listen to the bird song, enjoy some breeze and some sun. And then in the gallery as well, we have these mindfulness sheets that have just little prompt questions that you can use. And we have some extra chairs, and you can just grab one of those, grab a little mindfulness sheet, and just sit in front of one artwork or two artworks for a couple minutes to a couple hours and just really sink in and allow yourself to slow down and be a little bit more mindful in that moment, because life goes very quickly.
And it certainly, helps us to be grounded. So as we close out the discussion, please feel free to share with our listeners as you wish.
Yeah, well, I just reiterate, I think the thrust of this conversation today is really we want people to come and visit the collection. It's there for you, and this is... I wouldn't say it's a once in a generation, once in a quarter century maybe opportunity, since it's our 25th anniversary, but to see so many of these works and also to learn about the way in which we came about having these works in our possession, because people might not realize, but we don't have a regular acquisition budget funding to purchase artworks. And over our history, we've relied on donations, artists who've generously given us their works, local firms that have supported us. After Ivan, we had big support from local firms when some of the works in our collection were damaged. But that has just continued, and more recently with people like Susan Oldie, our chairwoman, and also the Cayman Islands government. The Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage has been a big advocate for us, and we're very pleased to have the support of our minister, Honorable Bernie Bush. And so when you go into that final space, you'll see, if you read those labels, all of those works are actually being acquired only the last 4 years, from about 2018 to the present, and you kind of see the richness of the works that we have been able to acquire. So we wanted to acknowledge, the support we've had from volunteers and but also donors and the Cayman Islands government who've really allowed us, I think, seeing the value of why a collection is important.
Well, thanks very much. And only if you wish, Ms. Baya. I know the collection and this particular exhibition is on until May, but if you wish to share any final thoughts.
Sure, yeah. I would say definitely check out our website on the What's On page, nationalgallery.org.ky/What's On. And that will give you more information about the program of events that goes alongside this show. As I mentioned, we have a number of lunchtime tours in both English and Spanish. We're also looking at doing some sign language tours as well. So if you are interested in those, please get in touch with us. We're going to be doing some short courses as well, thinking about the visual arts and how it's developed in the Cayman Islands. So we're really excited about what we have going on. If you are a school group and would like to book in for a guided tour, do let us know too. You can do that through the website or by emailing education@nationalgallery.org.ky.
All right, thank you both, and looking forward to having you in the studio, perhaps even sharing some time in this space with you as well. All right, our listeners are going to pause and take a short break, but when we come back, we invite you to be part of a continued discussion. Stay tuned.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
How can you take your business from good to great and thrive in the new normal? By finding the smartest, most powerful IT solutions to optimize your business operations. And now, Digicel Business Hub is making it simple for you. High-speed Wi-Fi, mobile and office phones, IT security, Microsoft Office with Teams, and much more. Everything your business needs to level up in the new normal. Get world-class IT for your business with Digicel Business Hub. Sign up today. Call us on 623-2499 or visit our website www.digicelbusiness.com for more information. A couple means two. Whether it's your spouse, significant other, or bestie, couples who sweat together stay together. King Sports Center is offering a gym and bowling special this Valentine period. Get 2 annual Powerhouse gym memberships for $750 starting from February 6th and ending on the 14th. Receive a free self-defense class for 2 upon purchase. At Kingpin Bowling, couples can get 2 games and 2 glasses of wine for only $40. The bowling offer is from February 11th to the 13th only. For more info, call us at 946-5464. That's 946-5464. King's Sports Center, your second home for fitness and recreation, celebrating 20 years of service.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And it's always a pleasure on Wednesdays to have through our various government entities an opportunity to share, with our public some of the good things that are happening. And today, we get an insight into the importance of our environmental, considerations and our impact. So, from the Department of Environment, Mr. John Bothwell, thank you again for coming along, bringing your colleagues, and even bringing Martin, but we'll see how that goes. But good afternoon to you, sir.
Sterling, thank you for having us on today for World Wetlands Day. We're really, really happy to be here to talk about that. Mm-hmm. World Wetlands Day is an international day on February 2nd, so thank you for getting us on the right time. We've got with me here today is Simone Williams. She's actually the DOE's newest full-time employee. She's working in her terrestrial section, just come back down to Cayman now. She taught birds and everything else, creepy crawl that I don't have to deal with, is her specialty. So we're really glad to have Simone with us. And then, of course, a lot of your listeners will know Martin Keeley, local resident, mangrove expert, education expert, and everything else in between. So Martin, again, thank you for doing everything you've been doing for mangroves for the last umpteen years.
Umpteen.
1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was from the days of Noah. But before we get to that, welcome, Ms. Simone. Anyway, thank you. And I'm glad that, as John shared, you can do the terrestrial aspect, so he can concentrate where he loves it, in the water. I think for public disclosure, we had him tested. He has gills as well. So John is not just amphibious. No, it is good that we can have that collaboration and see the importance of how the terrestrial environment. Many of us will take a walk increasingly in our dikes and quietly listen out for the birds, and probably in the last 2 years can reflect that, wait, there are more parrots visible. What's that sound? I didn't notice that before. And to see it, you help us to appreciate it, right? So?
Oh, for sure. Like, I actually have a great passion for birds, especially shorebirds, because I actually studied them up in Canada, followed them from their breeding grounds all the way through their migratory pathways and down into their overwintering areas here in the Caribbean, and those that also fly further south to the South America. So it's quite an amazing feat that birds do, and they actually really do look for wetlands. They're such a key environmental area that needs to be preserved because birds really depend on them.
If I might at some point, as we look at the importance of wetlands and coming to Martin just in a second, there are those of us who are bird enthusiasts, and some are appreciative of the migration, as it were. And I had a good friend who shared recently that she says, it seems as if, even the Brack, for instance, this January, February, March, this early part of the year is when you would see this, but so far it looks like it's not as been as evident. Is that just unfortunate timing, or is there something at hand?
I think, honestly, I haven't seen too much of what is going on in the Brack quite as yet, because I'm fairly new to the islands and getting a grasp. But so far, I've seen in Grand quite a few species, and it's just going to, as they migrate down, and depending on what weather systems are happening. Also, what's happening on the breeding grounds right now, shorebirds are shorebirds especially are experiencing, and many other species are experiencing some declines. And that has to do with climate change. But what we're finding is that, at least on the breeding grounds, that many birds are coming to the breeding grounds a little bit emaciated, and they're not able to successfully breed as a result.
Wow.
And so if they're not, they get their fat stores and everything from their wintering grounds, so from their homes here in the south. So it's interesting how it's so what happens here on the wintering grounds really impacts how they're able to survive for their life cycle.
Yeah, and as that sort of continues to start here to go around, it's this continual loop, and their continued existence is contingent on us in every part playing a role. We can see what happens.
Yeah, I would say it's amazing when you consider the size of some of these birds, how the distance they travel. And as your friend and the other birders, they can actually really help keep track of those numbers. Because, Simone, you all are doing the, Caribbean Wetlands Bird Survey now?
Yes, we're just wrapping that up. And so far, we've been going out to all the wetlands and the mangrove areas and seeing how birds are using and what species we're observing. And pretty much I don't have any actual numbers yet because we're still in the midst of it, but we've seen quite a few species. Like, we've been out with actually some high school kids, and they had a grand time counting and just learning all the different species. And it's hard. It is hard especially because mangroves have such thick vegetation to see all these little warblers bouncing around on the trees, and you have to really have an ear for them. And it's quite amazing how I've met a few people just being able to pick up on a little chip chip, but no, it's a blackpoll warbler or something like that. Yeah.
So that's something that the birding community can get into. It's voluntary based, just do it themselves through the Caribbean Caribbean Waterbird Survey, right?
Yes, and so you could also contribute using eBird, and Birds Caribbean has, I believe, a special list on eBird, so people can submit birds that they see using the app eBird.
All right, and we want to come back to you at some point to ask about some of those birds, and in particular, are there some that are regular, some that may be unexpected and be a treat? And I'll put it on the table now through John that as the project sort of gets on the way and you get all the data and you come back on, you share with us, right? Bring some photos. But Martin, if I could bring you into it, as an educator, I mean, you taught in our schools for a while. You had the blessing of being, positioned on the BRAC specifically. It's two things. One, has there been significant changes in the last century that you witnessed firsthand?
Last century or two?
No, we want to keep it to the last century.
Well, I'm sort of finding the birding situation interesting because I was up in the Pacific Northwest and west coast of Canada back in the 80s and 90s, and that was when they first started satellite tracking, and I was involved in several birding operations there, and now that's become incredibly sophisticated. But it was the first time where they were checking and tracking them up and down the Pacific Flyway, and of course now the birds we get are on the Atlantic Flyway. There being three flyways, the ones that go through the centre of the continents too. On the BRAC, I've noticed a little bit this winter, and the numbers seem to be down, just from what I see on a regular basis. I don't have any scientific
just observation.
Collecting stuff, observation, but I think that's going to be, rather not being too miserable and unhappy, that's going to be a trend for the future, because with climate change, a lot of birds aren't even bothering to migrate anymore.
They don't have to.
We don't have to.
It's like a staycation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Canada goose is classic, why should we go anywhere? The stuff's already here and it doesn't freeze over anymore. Yeah.
and I think, Ms. Williams, that's sort of, we joke and jest, but that's sort of what is happening. We've seen it in nature, that level of adaptation and hopeful adaptation, and we're concerned about our impact here. You talked about, the birds not having enough food to make the flight, and when they do, and they're so tired that they say, "I just put my feet up, I can't even bother to procreate." Kind of like a married couple. Sorry. Sorry.
Well, with the kids, what I tend to do with kids, it's hard to get that concept across until you say, okay, so if you in the past driven the freeways in North America, and every so often you've got to stop it and fill up with gas and fill up with food, right? Well, that's all a flyway is. So if you land in a wetland, there ain't any food there, you're going to go hungry. And that's something that is very easy to get across to children who do that anyway. The people it's difficult to get across to are the ones that are destroying the wetlands right now, because unfortunately in Cayman they don't seem to understand that birds don't eat concrete.
But as we listen to what you're sharing, we can quickly just sort of drive in our minds.
Yeah, sure.
Different places, right? And here's a property that growing up, we had different names for them, right? And as there are more and more development, that space becomes less and less, available. For some here, they might say, well, it's a trade-off,
It's not a trade-off, because we'll go down the tubes with it.
And Sterling, you're absolutely right. And when we talk about wetlands, a lot of people often think about the ponds. But we also want to talk about even what people like Simone would want me to call seasonal wetlands.
Yeah.
So like anybody else from West Bay listening and knows Battleground and how the grass species there flood every year. So if you think about it from a bird perspective, nature floods these low-lying areas every year. And that suddenly, for those 3 months of the rainy season, is a wetland. And so those birds or other species are timed around that natural cycle, and suddenly they're not just relying on the small pond anymore. They've got all this other area for feeding in, for as Simone was saying, fattening up and getting ready to go back to their breeding sites, or for whatever else the natural cycles are of the wildlife adapted to our rainy season and our very flat terrain. So it's as you were saying about losing habitat and habitat fragmentation. It's not just the ponds, and it's all these other areas. And even if you've got a development who has now put in a dugout pond to replace it, that's not a like-for-like replacement of the habitat that's all been lost. So Martin is absolutely correct that this is the new reality for us and the wildlife, that we've all got to decide, how do we want it to look? How many birds do we want to be seeing and hearing outside our window?
And it really isn't just the birds. I mean, if you start to look at any small ecosystem, and you see it being filled, say it's an acre, half an acre, As it's being filled, what you see is Hecates that don't know where to go. You've got geckos, you've got different kinds of lizards, amphibians. All these, it's an interdependent ecosystem. And if you sort of destroy the independent ecosystem, there's nowhere else for these creatures to go. And I think that's the hardest thing to communicate. And the other thing, too, is that rather than being completely anti-development, you could actually plan your development so you maintain these areas. You don't have to fill it all with marl. Once it's filled with marl, you can't ever use it again. So it will be quite simple, rather than building within, the entire area that you want to build something. Just leave part of it. In subdivisions, you have to, for example, leave an area which is a people place, right?
But even that is being able to be sold and developed now. So there's been
So leave that leave that as a wetland. You don't need to make a park out of it. Make a viewing ground out of it for species. And it's the same with everything. If you really want to do this, then why not try to combine it?
And that then helps the people, because you've got natural flood controls. We all know that no matter how many deep wells you put down, they can only take so much water. But you leave the land to act as a flood control. Everybody benefits. My house doesn't flood out, and you've got that natural temporary wetland that comes in the rainy season. As Martin is saying, it's not just the birds. I remember high school biology going with Mr. Tyler, finding some little ditch on the side down by what was then Hurley's, and going to be Hurley's again in a few years, where the insect life that was the larval stages down in that wetland. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen is the larval stage of a dragonfly, of a needle case. Anybody doesn't know what it is, look it up. It's the most amazing looking thing, and you suddenly realize that people like me are only seeing half of what's out there, when we're only seeing the dragonfly flying around and not the rest of its life cycle in that wetland.
Okay, so when we come back from this break, let's continue, and maybe as we look at it, we can get people to appreciate, as you did, Martin, with the child, and the analogy of driving, but maybe us as homeowners, as prospective developers, to appreciate the impact. All right, when we come back, we'll invite you to stay tuned. So join us again.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And of course, the phone lines are available if you want to, share a thought with us. As we look at World Wetlands Day from the Department of Environment, Mr. John Bothwell and his colleague Simone Williams, and Martin Keeley, who some of you will remember in the biblical days. He was right there. He was there authoring.
Yeah, about then.
But it's I won't even leave it. What is said during the break is aired after. But if I might, though, as we were going to look at birds and the terrestrial impact, before we get to there, Martin, you were sharing how even as homeowners, as would be developers, and as the demand by us for more, not just arable land, but for more, space to live, to build our homes and the like. I was wondering, you were sharing that don't put it all concrete or fill it all in.
Mm-hmm.
In your perspective, just from my personal edification, how would you say to a proposal? There's a large seasonal wetland. It's 30 acres, it's 40 acres, it's 5 acres. We would tend to fill in the building footprint and build there, and then a car park, and then landscape it, according to what's desired by planning authorities. But what if you elevated it somewhat and the space remained potential a seasonal wetland? Could that work?
Sure. I mean, most buildings are elevated now because it's the only way they can handle flood control.
Okay.
The other thing is that if you're thinking about why someone wants to buy a place or build a place, it's one of the things that attracts us is the bird life, the animal life, and apart from the standard Caribbean reluctance to accept any kind of reptile that's close by. They do have a useful effect because they eat rats and things.
Is snake a reptile? Is snake a reptile?
Yes, snake is a reptile.
I can see why they like this.
It's interesting. So, see, it's natural control. You don't need 1,000 traps and things, poisons. And again, as John was saying, the insect life is fascinating, and that's one of the things we do with the kids is we introduce them to the microscopic life because we have a bunch of microscopes that we take around and collect water samples so they can actually look at the microorganisms evolving and changing.
And not to deviate too far from it, but maybe because of what you shared sort of sparked a sort of memory. In Florida, way back when I was touring a particular development.
That's pre-Bible? Or?
No, this is, I guess, post-COVID. So this was in 2025. And in this development, I liken it to what we would know of the Cayman traditional architecture. The houses are built on ironwood posts, and they're up, and then the steps go up to, and all on is the natural vegetation. And in times, there'll be some flooding. But the way they did it, I guess the best example would be almost akin to boardwalks to each residence. And that was probably not for everybody. And Florida being Florida, it rains every day and in Hawaii during the summer. But it was interesting to see the attempt at preserving the natural habitat, providing a buildable space for this development. And I wonder if some of the seasonal wetlands that we have, could something like that work for us? I mean, it takes up.
Sure. The thing I think to get focused on is to not fill the whole thing. I realize that if you were going to put it on posts, you'd have to, put the footings in and everything. But that's what I've done on the BRAC is like, so that works fine for my place there. And there's no reason why you can't do it here too. And you get a view as well. It costs you a little bit more maybe. But I mean, one of the things we did on the BRAC was because there was no water authority, everyone had cisterns. And so when I built my first house in 1980, there's a big cistern on it. What else are you going to do? You're drinking fresh, clean rainwater.
Right.
But again, the whole concept of letting wildlife live around you, it's fun, exciting, and kids love it.
No. Absolutely. You build with nature.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not
exactly.
against,
Yeah.
Fish are friend. Not, okay.
But also, when you're able to elevate a house, right, you also preserve that hydrology that is naturally there in the landscape. And especially if you're near a wetland, especially like mangroves, where there's a lot of birds that colonize those mangroves and they nest and they poop. That actual guano is fertilizer and has like nitrogen and phosphorus in it. Those are limiting factors, right? So if you let the water be able to flow, those nutrients get to spread to all those adjacent habitats, which will actually enhance them and let them also grow and blossom and make the land beautiful around you.
Such excitement when we're talking about fertilizer. I mean, natural. I mean, I never thought it was possible. But it's working with
it's
it.
working with nature. The plants that we want around our yard start looking beautiful after that rainy season because nature has fertilized them, and that fertilizer is free, but it doesn't come with the environmental cost of all the man-made fertilizers or even the natural fertilizers that we have to ship in here to Cayman. Just the carbon cost of shipping someone else's guano here. Let nature do its thing, live with nature, and you'll have a much prettier surroundings.
So as I listen, I can see how we as people sometimes need to sort of rethink our approach to the way we live. Is it then that we now need to have not just a sensitive respect, but we need to elevate our approach to the surrounding lands and the wildlife, Ms. Moore?
I agree. I think that we need to consider how we're building. And I was part of a study looking at actually resorts and how they're able to attract various species of birds. And what we found was that resorts that actually had high density foliage on their pathways between the buildings, they actually attracted just about the same amount of bird life for songbirds, at least. Songbirds, let me specify, songbirds, so passerines. They were able to attract the same amount of passerines as you would find in the wild habitat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I like when you mentioned the hydrology of the land. We look at the rain runoff sometimes from the roads. We look at the heat island effect from our commercial buildings specifically, and how we're going to repurpose some of those rooftops for gardens. But if you could mitigate that by initially not even having to consider it as a consequence of after the fact, we have something to work with, John.
Yeah, and like you said, the parking lots, you softscape them as part of your living with that rainy season that we're going to have, and it keeps everything much cooler, a lot more grass, and even just, old people, like you said, their houses were raised up. That meant the breeze could flow under the house, and it was cooler. I mean, a lot of people would probably remember talking to their grandparents about, they would lie down on the floor sometimes in the middle of summer because that was the coolest spot they had. As uncomfortable as compared to a flat and trash bed, but so again, this living with nature thing, it can be done. It makes, as someone was saying, everything better. Because what you were, as Martin was saying, what has attracted you to this location in the first place, not just the fact that I could afford this house lot, is still there. You're saving as much as you can. And anybody who's built a house in a house lot knows the Cayman rules are you can't build in a whole square footage anyway. It's already built into our regulations that you have to set, you have to leave some of your land unbuilt. And it's just about looking at the property and saying, what is the things that would naturally be here? How do I enhance and maintain that and enjoy them?
Right. But as I listen to you, I mean, and we're sort of looking at policy, and people may not quite appreciate to the extent. And we're not trying to change it, but it's true education relative to recycling, the use of single-use plastics and the like. This is part of maybe that thought process of what we do that could impact legislation, but our own building habits.
Well, the other thing too is, again, we need to really focus on the landscaping. There is absolutely no reason why we have to import everything. In fact, we shouldn't be importing species that are not local, not native. And because if you're using local species, you're going to attract the wildlife anyway. But look at casuarina trees, look at the willow trees, they're useless. They're very pretty, but if you look underneath them, they're acidic. And they basically poison the soil, so nothing will grow underneath. You never see a bird nesting in a casuarina tree. You might occasionally see a bird drying out on them, but just with their wingspan drying out. But basically, they're useless. They're pretty, but they're useless as a species. They don't contribute at all to the local environment. And the first thing that goes down when there's a storm is the casuarina tree because the roots are shallow.
Yeah.
So use local species.
What's that green invasive one that grows by the water?
The scavola.
Scavola.
Right, and so that's another beautiful example whereas there is a local version of that plant.
That's right.
So the scavola is actually originally from the Pacific, and there was a Caribbean cousin. But when the people started bringing this scavola out of wherever, it just kind of went wild because you throw a clipping out and it springs up. But there is still people here who are maintaining those the local one, including for sale to gardeners. Obviously, I can't see who they are because that sounds like an endorsement, but anybody looking to build stuff on the coast, just do a little bit of checking around, and you will find which gardening companies have the native inkberry plant available to put on your property. And obviously, even if you're not on the coast, it'll still grow anywhere else. But it's a hard to salt tolerant plant, so it works well for anybody building on the coast. And then all of our local wildlife, the curly-tailed lizards, the hermit crabs, etc., they can fit in under those leaves, in amongst those the tree roots, the plant roots. That's their habitat. And suddenly, your property, the part that you couldn't develop anyway, is native and alive and beautiful. And when a storm does come through, that inkberry root system is holding your sand in place much better than the Australian pine is going to do.
Right. All right, we're at a news break. When we come back, this is where this discussion dialogue leads to education and edification. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Police are investigating an aggravated burglary in Georgetown on Tuesday. Just before 3 p.m., two masked men were interrupted while they removed a safe that was bolted down at a residence located on Annie Bonny Crescent using what is believed to be a crowbar. The homeowner was forced and locked into a room by the assailants, and soon after they fled the location in a black sedan vehicle. The victim did not report any injuries to the police. The incident is being investigated by the police, and detectives are seeking information from the public that may assist in locating the assailants and the stolen safe, which contained documents and other personal items. You're encouraged to call the Georgetown Police Station at 949-4222 or the RCIPS confidential tip line at 949-7777. In international news, U.S. President Joe Biden has formally approved the deployment of 3,000 U.S. troops to Poland, Germany, and Romania, the Pentagon announced Wednesday, in a move to bolster NATO countries in Eastern Europe, with tens of thousands of Russian troops amassed along Ukraine's border. The deployments to Eastern Europe, according to CNN, are a show of support to NATO allies feeling threatened by Russia's military moves near Ukraine and the threat of an invasion, U.S. officials said. A major winter storm with millions of Americans in its path brought a mix of rain, freezing rain, and snow to the middle section of the United States on Wednesday as airlines canceled hundreds of flights. Governors urged residents to stay off roads and schools closed campuses. The blast of frigid weather, which began arriving Tuesday night, put a long stretch of states from New Mexico and Colorado to Maine under winter storm warnings and watches. On Wednesday morning, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan saw freezing rain, sleet, and snow. Beijing reported 3 new COVID-19 cases on Wednesday, as officials said the virus situation was under control, with the Olympic Games set to open later in the week. The 3 cases reported in the 24-hour period from Tuesday to Wednesday all involved people under some sort of quarantine. The Chinese capital has been on high alert as it prepares to host the Winter Olympics starting Friday. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Hey, thanks for joining us too, and thanks for the opportunity to partner with the Department of Environment as we look at World Wetlands Day. Mr. John Bothwell and his colleague, Ms. Simone Williams. I think as public servants, your commitment to not just the country's overall education and understanding of how we impact the environment, but how we also impacted by it. And Martin Keeley, for joining us and coming across. If it's okay, Mr. Bothwell, let me speak to your colleague, Ms. Simone, for a second. Birds, I think, are fascinating. Some friends would share that sometimes just unexpected, they'll look out and they'll see, oh, that looks like this kind of bird. Even hawk-like birds, in different times of the year, I would venture to say that that's probably a significant on the top monetary contribution that we as a society or as as economists don't really appreciate that this could lead, just like fish and sharks and other things can contribute because of the attractiveness. Birds and birders and birding, Ms. Simone?
Yeah, birding, the bird field and the study of ornithology is growing and is quite alive. And birds do contribute a lot to the wetlands, and they're actually migratory birds, where science is slowly sort of waking up to the fact that these birds are really sentinels of how the whole continent is, and sort of like a health check of how habitats are. Like if there is a lot of birds in an area, there's an abundance, there's richness there, then that habitat is healthy. There's going to be a lot of biodiversity there. And what we're noticing is that, like, if we look at the birds and we catch them in our hand and actually look at them and measure how fat they are, or
you such a fun little thing.
or how they're growing, or how they're molting, and how their feathers look, then we really they reflect the health of the environment. Like, a lot of the things with like DDT, we didn't notice the effects, and firstly, by looking at the birds' eggs, seeing how the bird populations are dying, what's going on, and then we're like, their chicks aren't hatching because there's not enough calcium. Their eggs are all soft, and that's because of the pesticides. Like, birds are indicators. They're like the canary in the mine shaft sort of thing, and they do that for the whole world.
And that's the interesting part, I think, that we don't start to appreciate the interconnectedness. I mean, you talk about the terrestrial aspect. We see it with the health of our reefs as well. But if we can concentrate on that, since it's World Wetlands Day, and the notion that increasingly there was much ado about mangroves and dredge and this impact in hurricane protection. But Martin, we've 50 years on in some cases.
We're 50 years on and we still haven't learned. I mean, I've been doing this since the 80s, first up north.
70s, 80s,
and well, one of the things I learned very early on was that there's an association called the Audubon Society, and they have a life list. The birders all have a life list where they go through all the species. And people travel all over the world. And kind of one of the most exciting things I had I was on Guanaja a few years ago, and doing some of the education programs. And my friend who was there, who was running camp, said, "You have to stay on that island." I'm going, "Why?" He said, "I'll tell you later." Anyway, the long and short was that the person that was visiting was a very famous person. It was Jimmy Carter and his wife. And I said, "Well, you could add to the list." And they go, yeah, what list? Because they both have life lists. And I said, "Well, there's a Vitoline warbler on this island. The only 3 islands in the world where you find it. And that's the Cayman Islands, Pine Island off the coast of Cuba, and Guanaja in the Bay Islands." And so we got up at, we're on a tiny little atoll. It's not much bigger than this studio. And got up at dawn, and then we went in and crept in the bush, and there it was. There was the Vitoline warbler. Actually, I talked to it the day before to make sure it was going to be there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We wasn't sure what happened there.
Yeah, it was very, very cooperative, and so they were very excited. They had God knows how many 100 birds on their life list. They added another, and birding was before COVID, and I don't know whether it still is. It was the fastest and largest growing form of environmental tourism on the planet. Do we market that? No, we're just marketing bloody sand on the beaches, right?
I want to ask you about that.
What?
So Martin, with that in mind, and increasingly, I guess, as our network of friends increase, as our interests develop, we come to gather that in Cayman, in the Cayman Islands, in Grand Cayman in particular, there are species that are here and only, like you said,
Old truce.
Yeah,
only found here.
And it's something that we don't appreciate. We probably don't know about it in our schools. We certainly don't tell it to our children in our homes. And as you said, we haven't, if I can use the marketing term, monetized it.
Yeah.
And yet there are some very lucrative endeavors to attract. Now, we're not doing this for the money, but the importance of recognizing that there's economic contribution to the economy.
Exactly.
Ms. Williams, that brings us back to the importance of looking at the terrestrial impact that we're having. Go ahead, say what you wanted, and I want to ask you a question.
So pretty much like, yeah, if we eliminate like critical habitats, and you know, we do concrete jungles all over the place, then yeah, those birds are not going to show up. Kids are not going to learn what a vitelline warbler is. They're not going to experience the excitement of getting out and getting connected to nature. All they're going to do is connect it to their device, pretty much, which is a huge problem, I think. And for kids especially to get excited about nature, they need to be out in it. They can't experience it through a screen.
I'm wondering, right, as you said that, and maybe like we have days or months dedicated to certain educational initiatives, usually probably relative to some illness. You know, we could have, you know, a month without any sort of digital connection, no devices for the next. How many of us will survive? But like our children, that we try our best to educate them relative to the environmental impact. I wonder if this is a case where, as parents and adults, we now need to develop this interest.
Yeah, we do as parents, I think, and also like we have to meet kids where they are. Like, yeah, they are connected to devices, so maybe we use like how I was saying, like eBird, and also there's another app put out by iNaturalist called Seek, where it's actually a game where kids can go out and they can like take a picture
Pokemon with purpose.
Yeah, like it's almost like Pokemon, and they are able to like identify insects, and pretty much kids can get out and you know, have a blast with it and get their badges. Oh, I got my amphibian badge. I got my like insect badge or my bird badge, and it's quite interesting.
I think it's where as parents, you know, we do have a caller. I think, Ms. Susan, is that okay? So we have John Bothwell, his colleague Simone Williams, and then we have Martin Keeley as our guest. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Sterling.
Hi. How are you?
You know who this is, Sterling?
Are you having a good day today, I hope?
Your old nurse friend. Hey, Sterling. Remember I had called about the environment, about the cutting down all of these.
You did, yes.
Wetland and everything, you know what? But I live in Lookout Garden, and about from maybe 3 to 4 years ago or more, there was a lot of water up there, and it dried down, and there was, you know, the garland. You all call it garland, the white, white bird. It used to be loaded down there when snow falling, and now I don't see any of them.
I wonder if I don't want to put them on the spot too much, but there is that growing concern that, and we sort of alluded to it earlier, that there are some birds that are not as prevalent as they used to be, some that are visibly absent. So you see in the Gull-Linn. Now, that was one of the things I had to ask of you. We have certain terms of certain birds, and only now, you know, in my 9th decade, that I'm beginning to realize that that's not the real name. I'm almost as old as Mark. Anything else, Mom, you want to share with us?
Yes, and I don't see any water settling down like first time. You know, used to be a lot of water, and now these 4 years, everything is dried down. So, you know, I'm kind of worried about this island. I'm not trying to put down anyone or anything, but I don't know. Cutting down the wetland and filling it up and all those things, it's dangerous, man.
It is something to be concerned with. Thank you very much for sharing, Mom.
Okay, then.
Okay, bye. So the Gull-Linn, I think there's a real name for it, or is it the Gull-Linn? We always see them by the cows and, you know, the tall white birds.
Oh,
egrets.
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 Yeah.
The big ones are snowy egrets, and the little ones are cattle egrets. So you see them around cows, right?
When I was used to see cows, yeah.
When you used to see cows, I realise you've eaten them all. But
that was just Christmas.
Okay.
Felt that way.
Yes, that was a Gull-Linn. Yeah, if you're ever out with new birders or marine guys like me, the number of herons and egrets that we have around here that all look vaguely similar it can be quite stunning. I don't know, Simone, I think you all were seeing, was it a red-winged heron or something the other day?
Oh, we saw a reddish heron, a reddish egret. Sorry.
I managed to see a scarlet ibis the other day. It was amazing.
The interesting thing is I'm going to switch to the central mangroves because there's a huge nesting colony of snow egrets are living there. And if you take the boat in, you can see them flying around. Again, the central mangroves is something a place we really need to protect. And people don't know, but it is the largest contiguous mangrove swamp, if you want to call them a swamp, in the whole Caribbean. 6,500 acres. So we need to protect that, to preserve it, not just for the species, the wildlife that use it, that we're talking about, but again, there's a major connection from the terrestrial side into the ocean side, through the mangroves, through the runoff, through the seagrass. Everything's integrated, interrelated. So sooner or later, if you start, filling and chopping down and ridding yourselves of all the mangroves and filling them with marl, those other interdependent ecosystems are going to start to collapse as well.
Right. Well, after this break, let's revisit that, and maybe, as the caller just shared, the idea that she's noticing, less and less birds. Is that something to be concerned about? With someone you referenced, the birds come here, but they don't have the sustenance to perhaps even sustain their species, and they might even make it back to their breeding grounds, all because of our impact. Do we care? Well, we should. And if we care, can we care more? I'm going to pause and take this short break. When we come back, we'll conclude the discussion.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
You, members of your family or household, could be required to isolate at a moment's notice. Ensure that you have stocked enough food, water, prescriptions, and sanitary items to last for 14 days. Have a plan if living arrangements require adjustments, and remember that all deliveries must be contactless. For more information on how to prepare and the support services available, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. In the studio, Mr. John Bothwell, his colleague Simone Williams from the Department of Environment, and Martin Keeley. Maybe we'll start back this discussion as we look at World Wetlands Day. Once an educator, always an educator. But as a formal instructor, within a setting of our students, you introduce them, to nature through the science class, and we use outdoors as a learning lab, as it were. And then over time, there's an interest. Some of them would go on, like young Mr. Bothwell was in the early days, and to a career.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are policymakers who are listening too, and who need to understand that there's a consequence and an interconnectedness, as you shared.
Yeah, I think most kids get it. Once you get them out there, you don't really need to do anything else. They just, I remember wandering around in the mud when I was 3, right? Because that was pre the First World War. No, just kidding.
It was safe to go outside then.
Yeah. But one of the things I wanted to mention is that this weekend we have the mangrove ranges, and we have 3 projects going. We have a snorkel amongst the mangrove roots, which is fabulous, and kids love to do that. Then we have our beer and barbecue. We have mangrove beer on Saturday afternoon, and then on Sunday morning we have the kayaks.
Yeah. Okay. And so how well is that kayak trip?
It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay.
And we go out with the ambassadors of the environment guys up at near the Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah. So that one's sort of based middle of the island, 7 Mile Beach.
Yeah.
The snorkel that you all are doing, the Mangrove Rangers, that's coming out of where?
That goes out of the Newlands Barcadere, and we go into the central mangroves from there. And snorkel amongst the roots there.
That should be beautiful. And that's on a Friday afternoon, you said?
No, that's Saturday. Saturday morning is a snorkel. And then that's at 9 o'clock, Smith Barcadere. And then on Saturday afternoon from 3 to 6, we have at the 81 Brewery, we have a special Mangrove beer and barbecue with a live band and everything. That's for 3 to 6. And then on Sunday morning from 9 to 11, we have the kayaking out with the folks up at the Ambassador of the Environment, the Ritz-Carlton.
And this is where I think when we interact, John, this is right up, where you love it. But there were times, even as children, we would go up around Barkas, up around the rocks, and just go into it was Salt Creek then. I'm not quite sure what it is now. A little creek, and then and see sometimes nurse sharks, sometimes lobsters, but see all sorts of wonderful things.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I mean, we all had that experience growing up, and it's about what people like the Mangrove Rangers are doing and making sure that even as we keep developing, people can keep having that experience. And with people like Martin along on the trip, interpret it a bit better than when we're just running around wild by ourselves. Because it is amazing what you can learn when you're just going through the wilderness with somebody who knows what they're looking at and can identify the birds like Simone, the plants, everything. It really is quite amazing. And Martin wrote the book about mangroves and mangrove education, so you'll be, there's so much to learn out there, and particularly about, as you said, the interrelationships between everything.
Yeah, and I like the fact that as we look at it, we can celebrate and showcase much, but then we maybe start to appreciate. I mean, Simone, from your perspective, that level of formal instruction, can maybe be helpful in inculcating in us that passion for going out and being a birder, to appreciate that, that entrepreneur listening, going, hey, this is a wonderful eco tourism perspective, because birders spend a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah,
they do, and especially the equipment is not cheap.
It's not easy to look about.
Yeah. And I know for myself, like I remember when my parents, they were very concerned because I was looking at birds, and I was like very passionate and buying all these books and trying to figure out which bird is this and what makes that sound, and honestly I think they were worried. They were worried that,
as most good parents are.
Yeah, they were worried that I wouldn't be able to make a career out of it, and that's the thing. I found that after completing high school, I was very active in environmental clubs, and then going on into university, I was able to actually meet people who are also like-minded, and found out all the different conservation organizations that were out there like worldwide, and how they're actually like looking for people, looking for talent, and I was fortunate to be able to fall into that group. And get my master's degree out of it, which now my parents are very proud of me.
I mean, you're living here. I mean,
yeah.
But John, I'm glad that Simone, thank you for sharing that publicly. But sometimes as parents, we're very supportive. We want to help our children along the way as best we can. Nurture their interests, and at some point, okay, now you need to get a job to make money, all right? But that passion for birds, whether you become an ornithologist or whether you decide that you become a professor, and teach biology, it is something that you can do.
Well, and it's just useful for everybody. So I mean, the sheer number of Caymanian kids that have gone through Martin's mangrove classes over the last couple of decades is phenomenal. But the understanding that they then have. So putting it back to the caller that we had talking about what they're seeing around them, and the change to the wetlands, and what that's kicking it, what happens, the side effects of that, and then when we start talking about climate change and things, and how we all have to adapt to a changing climate and a changing world, and understanding how wetlands work, and that why we need to save them and keep them around our house, keep them in our communities, because we're going to be seeing less rainfall but more storm events. Is a prediction for climate change, and what that means is needing those wetlands around us to act as a reservoir for the rain during the, for the water during the dry season or the dry spells between rains, but then to be able to absorb the floods when they do come, the rain floods. You need somebody, you need that explained to you. But once you, like Martin said, once the kids hear it, they get it. It's pretty obvious to anybody, like the caller who's observing the land around them. And so that connection to our land is only bolstered by getting out with the mangrove rangers for World Wetlands Day and doing, some of these tours and learn, going. If you don't want to go kayaking, go to the barbecue, talk about the mangroves, and know what's going on with the world around you.
I think and listen to our children, whether as teachers in the classroom to the students or whether as coaches, and I guess over the last year and a bit, having the boys around, these are young teenagers, right? Very active, but they're also very cognizant of the impact on the environment, and to listen to what they're sharing. I hope they'll forgive me. I'm not talking out of school, but they're not just repeating what's shared in the classroom or what they've heard at home. They're actually talking amongst themselves as a group, as a network, of saying, "Look at what we're doing. This place now is being bulldozed. That tree is down," and they're very conscious of what is transpiring. Now they may not see it as being environmentalists. They just probably see it as being very sensible. That I think that to you, Simone, that's probably that interest now that's become. Was an academic pursuit that now becomes a career passion.
And young people that are have this awareness, right, of the environment around them and seeing what, learning from the mistakes and how we're making such a footprint and also affecting the environment that will help when solve those problems and actually hopefully we can bring back some of that natural traditional thought in our future
the way we build, the way we live, the way we develop. And as I listen to this is kind of not just sustainability but survivability and enjoyment while we're here. So Martin, as we wrap up the discussion, I'll start with you first. There's no question that there is an important element to the mangroves, but maybe we haven't quite got there yet to be sufficient or willing to make whatever sacrifices or concessions or what is needed. Your perspective on that?
A couple of things. Climate change is the big thing, of course, because it affects everything, and mangroves retain at least 9 times the amount of carbon than the rainforests do. They're huge carbon reservoir.
Which is something we didn't realize in the past. Right?
Yeah. So you dig them up, and not only are you destroying the tree, but you're destroying what the tree's been growing in for the last few hundred years. The other thing I think is interesting is we're already seeing an impact of the kids that we taught 20 years ago because there was an election last year. And those kids are voting now. And what they're voting with is something that says, we're conscious of what's happening. We know what's happening to the environment. We're going to have to live through it the next 40 or 50 years. And so you guys that we're going to elect, you actually have to do something about it. You can't just do what you've always done. So you have to find a way to protect what we've got.
There's a consciousness now.
The consciousness is there. It's right there.
Indeed. Any sort of closing remarks, Ms. Simone, if you wish to share, and then, of course, Mr. Walker.
I think, we have to get out. Everybody. They need to get outside. They need to get connected with nature. They need to experience and appreciate it. And parents need to show their children that they need to value the environment. This is what they're giving for them, and this is what we need to preserve. And they need to really emphasize that, I think.
I appreciate it. John?
Yeah, anybody listening will have heard us today talk about everything ranging from mangroves to ponds to seasonal wetlands, back to mangroves, out to the reefs, across the turtle grass beds, talking about housing. Everything is so interrelated, and that's what I think we all have to recognize, and we're learning. So this is not just an esoteric talk about wetlands. This is about how people live here in the Cayman Islands and live going forwards with climate change. And so that is what I think the real takeaway for people here is. This is about sustainability and living well with nature. We're not going to enjoy life without a good nature around us, and that's what World Wetlands Day and wetland sustainability is all about. And anybody, just one final plug if I can, anybody who wants to know more, the Mangrove Rangers have some great stuff going on this weekend. Anybody wants their kids to know more, like Simone was saying, get them into the Mangrove Rangers. These kind of after-school clubs is the best thing for them. And when you see some of the kids in the Mangrove Rangers, it's not just kids in school. This is going upwards and onwards, like Martin said. We're laying the groundwork here for a better Cayman.
Yeah. I thank each of you for sharing, and I think one takeaway, as Simone referenced, you plant a garden, and just the amount of wildlife you can attract between buildings. Many of us spend a lot of time putting bird baths in our yards or bird houses, and we want to attract. But are we conscious about the landscaping? Are we conscious about the impact that we're having on, as we build, not just the carbon footprint, but perhaps the impact on the ecosystem? So thanks for that reminder, Ms. Simone.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mr. Bothwell. And Martin, it's always a pleasure, man. A safe trip back to the back when you return.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I'll be
well,
back.
to our listeners, we invite you to enjoy the rest of the programming here at Radio Cayman, and then come back tomorrow for more Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. God's willing, I'll be here as productive and as cheerful as ever. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.